Welcome to today's explainer. Look, if you're someone who's highly motivated, you've got these massive goals and you just want to learn as much as humanly possible, then you're exactly who I need to talk to right now. Because I know a little secret about you. You probably feel this deep, nagging sense of guilt whenever you actually sit down to rest, right? You just want to maximize your learning output, and sitting on the couch it feels like you're falling behind. Well, today we're going to completely dismantle that feeling and honestly change how you think about learning itself.
Okay, let's dive into this. I want to ask you a very direct question right off the bat. Have you ever mistaken your own mental fatigue for just a total lack of discipline? Like you look at your inability to get started on a project or a study session, and you just think, man, I'm just being so lazy today. It's a terrible feeling, isn't it? But what if I told you there's no way you're lazy, and you're actually fundamentally misdiagnosing the problem?
You see, the reason we judge ourselves so harshly comes down to this deeply conditioned trap. We call it the old equation. Basically, it's this idea that more study time automatically equals more learning. We tend to think of our brains like a giant conveyor belt, right? The longer it runs, the more products pop out the other side. And because of this deeply ingrained belief, we start to think literally every single free hour must be spent learning. If you aren't working, well, you feel like you should be. And therefore, any time you spend resting just feels like completely wasted time.
Which brings us to Section 1, the productivity trap.
The author of our source material actually hit a massive mental roadblock because of this exact trap. They just pushed and pushed, studying continuously, completely driven by this intense fear of wasting time. Let me break the fourth wall here for a second and ask, have you ever experienced these exact symptoms? You sit down at your desk in the evening, fully intending to just crush a study session, but instead, you just sit in front of the computer. You open up YouTube, you mindlessly check your phone. Or maybe you just stare blankly at the screen, kind of hoping the knowledge will somehow absorb through osmosis. The author went through this exact same thing and initially thought, wow, I've just become a lazy person. I literally lack the discipline to do this.
So the crucial point is, they weren't being lazy at all. They actually had a major epiphany. The issue was that their cognitive energy had already been completely depleted. They had drained the tank down to absolute zero. Depleted cognitive energy is basically a state of mental exhaustion that prevents any meaningful work, but, and here's the kicker, it cleverly disguises itself as laziness or procrastination. Realizing this, it's a real game changer. It completely shifts how you understand learning because it takes all that guilt and replaces it with actual biology and mechanics.
Moving on to Section 2. What is cognitive energy? Think of your brain like a high-performance engine, and cognitive energy is its premium fuel. And this brilliantly illustrates the stark contrast between your brain operating at full capacity versus when it's just sputtering on empty. When you see it mapped out like this, it becomes incredibly obvious why pushing through exhaustion isn't just inefficient, it's actually completely counterproductive. Let's break down exactly what each of these states looks like in your day-to-day life.
When your cognitive energy is high, man, everything just clicks. You've got better focus, you make faster, sharper decisions, you can do that really deep thinking, you can lock onto a task without being completely derailed by every little noise in the room, you can connect ideas in these cool, novel ways, and most importantly for what we're talking about today, you have a significantly better ability to learn difficult concepts. Honestly, if you want to tackle complex subjects efficiently, you absolutely must be operating in this high-energy state. It's totally non-negotiable.
But watch what happens when that energy drops. Your attention span just plummets. You start making poor decisions. You suddenly develop this intense preference for really easy, mindless tasks. You start craving instant gratification, mindless social media scrolling, and you just fall right into intense procrastination. I really want to validate your experience right now. When you are seeking instant gratification or avoiding your work, it is a direct consequence of depletion. It's not a character flaw. Your brain is literally just too exhausted to do the hard stuff, so it pivots straight to the easy stuff.
This brings us to Section 3, the new learning model. We need a massive paradigm shift here. We have got to stop measuring our success by the ticking clock and instead start using an energy-based metric. Look at the old model. More time equals more learning. We know now that's a trap. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the new model. High-quality cognitive cycles equal more learning. Time alone doesn't produce growth, folks. The quality of your energy does. Let's move to and see how this builds a continuous, sustainable engine for actual learning. Step 1. You do the work, learning. As a direct result, Step 2, your cognitive energy decreases. Now look at Step 3, recharge. In this new model, recharging is an active, absolutely mandatory step within the system itself. It's not some annoying interruption to your learning. It is a required phase of it. Because you take the time to recharge, Step 4 happens. High-quality cognitive thinking returns, which then powers Step 5, your next cognitive cycle. It's a beautifully efficient loop.
And finally, Section 4, rest enables learning.
If you want to protect your ability to think deeply day after day, you have to fundamentally change your relationship with rest. This is the absolute core realization you need to take away from this explainer today. Rest does not reduce learning, rest enables learning. For all the overachievers out there watching, hear me loud and clear. Letting go of the guilt and fully embracing your recharge time is actually how you maximize your output. By resting, you aren't quitting. You are actively preparing your brain for the next high-quality cognitive cycle.
So, I'm going to leave you with this final thought. When you sit down to work tomorrow, how are you going to measure your growth? Are you going to judge yourself by the sheer number of hours you stared at a screen, slowly draining your tank to zero? Or are you going to measure your success by the number of high-quality, fully charged cognitive cycles you actually completed? Ditch the clock, protect your deep thinking, and watch your learning absolutely soar. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you in the next one.